Hey, what's up, boys and girls, and other people who may be watching, grandmas, grandpas, maybe your grandpa. What's up, grandpas? Today we're going to be doing some subtraction. This is lesson 5 from module 3, and we're doing subtraction of fractions with unlike units using the strategy of creating equivalent fractions. This is very much like the same strategy that we're using to add fractions, but instead of adding, we're subtracting. So this should be good. It should be pretty easy, pretty smooth. And so let's just go over some problems, make sure that you guys are good to go, and you'll be adding or you'll be subtracting fractions in no time. So taking a look at this, I guess I should start with if we had the same kind of a thing that we started with on the adding side. If I have 3 boys and I want to subtract 1 girl, this is something that I can't do. I can't do it because boys and girls are different, and I can't do that. But if I did switch them over to 3 people minus 1 person, they're both people, I can do that. I would end up with 2 people. So it's the same kind of a scenario when we're doing fractions. We need to make sure that we're subtracting parts that are alike. And so let's head back to that problem that I had up on the board on the screen here. 1/2 minus 1/3. Now, I can't do that because I can't subtract halves and thirds. They're not the same. But I know that if I go ahead and make my rectangular models here, our fractional models, and I do 1/2 on this side, and I do 1/3 on this side over here, and I know that I go ahead and I can make them equal. I can give a common denominator by doing the same thing to one side as I do to the other side. So this side I'm going to make half, and this side I'm going to make thirds. And so now I can see that now I have them cut into the same pieces. It's easy for me to share it this way. I liken this to if I'm thinking about like me and somebody I know, and we're sitting down, we each have a whole cake. We want to trade because I want to try some of his cake and he wants to try some of my cake because I just spend a lot of time thinking about cake. And if I want to trade a piece with him, well, I'm going to make sure that it's a fair size. I'm going to make sure that whatever I trade him, he's trading me that same exact size. And so we're going to need to make sure we're cutting our cakes up into the same size pieces. Well, that's the same thing of what we've done here, is we've cut these up into the same size pieces to make sure that it's fair when we're subtracting. So we've cut them up into pieces, and we can see I have 2 groups of 3, or 3 groups, or 2 groups of 3, or 3 groups of 2. Either way, you count it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So my common denominator on these guys is going to be 6. On my half over here, I have 3/6, and 1/3 in sixths is 2/6. And so now I can subtract them. Now I can take them away. So visually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2/6 that I have here, and I'm just going to cross off 2 of those over here. See you later, bucko. And now all I'm left with is this one right here, which is how many? It's 1/6. And that makes sense, right? 3 minus 2 is 1. And 6, well, it's not really an amount. It's really just kind of saying, hey, this is the size of piece that you have. And so 1/6 is definitely going to be the difference between 1/2 and 1/3. So let's go on and try a few more examples. You see how it is the same as when we're adding, that we're just making the common denominator and then doing the process afterwards. Let's try 1/2 minus 1/5. All right. Once again, we're dealing with fractions that have 1s in our numerator, and that's kind of keeping things easy. We'll kick it up a notch here in a couple seconds. So here we go. 1/2. Another box, and this will be my 1/5. 1/2. I'll make sure I didn't do it on the last one. Make sure that I am making sure that I am saying that these are units of 1. Okay, and over here I have 5, so I draw 4 lines. 3 and 4. Okay. Over here I want 1/2 of this. Over here I only want 1/5. Awesome. Do the same thing to both sides and turn this into halves. Turn this into fifths. So I gotta draw 4 lines. Okay. Now, what did I just do? What's one fractional unit? What's my common denominator that I'm dealing with here? Well, I have 2 rows of 5, right? Or 5 rows of 2. Either way you slice it, it's 10. So I'm dealing with tenths. Over on this side, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have a whole row of tenths. 1/2 in tenths is 5 tenths. And over here, I have 1/5 in tenths would be 2 tenths. Okay, and now I can subtract that out. 5 minus 2, well, that's 3 tenths. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm also going to go over here, and I'm just going to cross off the 2 that I had. 1, 2, and I'm going to see how many it was that I had left here. And I can see that it is 3, 1, 2, 3. I do have 3 tenths, and that jives with what I had over here. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself right now, aren't I? Yes, I am. Let's go ahead and try one where the denominator is going to be higher than 1. It's not going to be a unit fraction. So let's take a peek. This is a non-unit fraction, is what we call these. This is 2/3. And now 1/4. Okay, so now I have something other than a non-unit fraction. So basically, what I'm going to need to do is just make sure that as I'm shading and drawing, I'm being very particular about how I'm doing that, making sure that my lines are straight and I'm counting correctly. Okay, so I have 2/3 here. 1, 2, and I'm shading in 2 of them. This whole thing is represented as a 1. I have 1 here. Same thing here. I have 1 here. I'm going to go back in and do some labeling to make sure that I'm keeping things right. Over here I have 4ths. And I only have 1 of them. Okay. That sounds great. 1/4 right here. 2/3 right here. Awesome. Do the same thing to each side, right? I need to make them the same size pieces so I can subtract them correctly. I'm going to turn this into thirds. Put my thirds there, and over here I'm going to do my 4ths. 3 lines for 4ths. And now I have them all cut up into the right pieces. I have 3 rows of 4, or I have 4 rows of 3. Either way, 3 times 4 is 12. And over here, how many 12ths do I have? I have 2 rows of them. That would be 4 and 8. And I'm subtracting. I'm taking away 1, 2, 3 12ths. And I'm going to get a difference. 8 minus 3. 8 minus 3 is 5. My 12 stays the same because that's the size of the piece I'm using. And I have the difference of 5 12ths. And I want to go ahead and I'm going to once again cross off. I'm taking these 3 away. These 1, 2, 3 right here. So I'm going to cross off 3 of them. 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So everything is looking pretty good. Let's just do one more, and we're done. This is maybe the fastest video ever. Best video ever. 4/5 minus 2/3. Okay, you notice that my numerator on both of these is going to be above 1. And that will probably be the only difference here. Otherwise, it's all the same strategy. Be careful how you're drawing. Be careful about your lines. This one over here, both of these, excuse me, are 1. And this guy here is going to be cut into 5ths, so I need to draw 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. And over here, drawing 3 lines. 2 lines, only 2. 1, 2. Over here, 4/5. Let's color them in. Fill these gentlemen or ladies in. 3. I got 4 of them. It's almost the whole thing, isn't it? And over here I have 2/3. Okay, so here I have 4/5. Here I have 2/3. Either way, I'm good to go. I need to make them the same size pieces. So whatever I did to this side, I needed to do that side, and that side to this side. And this is where it starts to get, where it's a little bit cluttered up. Gotta make sure I'm being careful here. I'm drawing 2 lines. 1, 2. It's important that I can be able to see this empty space over here. And here, I'm drawing 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I feel pretty confident about this. I know that I have, excuse me, I have 3 lines of 5, or 5 lines of 3. Either way, 5 times 3 is 15. I'm dealing with 15ths. I have only 1 row empty on this one. So I know it's 3, 6, 9, 12. I have 1 row empty here, which would be my 5. So I know that I'm dealing with 10 here, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 12. I'm subtracting 10. The difference between 12 and 10 is 2. And I'm left with 2/15. I'll double check that. Taking 10 away from this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I see that I have 2 sitting over here still, and that's what I thought originally. So I think as long as you're making sure that you are being particular about drawing your lines and being particular about taking things away. Also, I really think it's smart to double check, go back, make sure your answer makes sense. Does this answer make sense? Yes, it does. You should be fine. So post any comments or questions. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.